What's up everyone, this is Scher talking, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we'll be talking about the romancing festival Cordelia, the second part of the Prefecture banner that's brought to global as the second year anniversary. We have Cordelia, we have Rich, we have Will, we have Ginny, characters from SaGa Frontier 2, and they offer a lot of different value for some people that have been skipping some banners and want more value out of a single banner. So starting with Cordelia, we have now 6 different styles of her. This one comes from a tower. This one here is platinum. This was a limited school style. This was a limited Christmas style. And this other one was a limited Valentine style. So there's a plenty of inheritance, but some of them can be limited. So the current one is this one called Moonlit Stroll. We can compare it to the teacher version, that's the latest premium. But we have higher STR, we have higher endurance, higher dexterity, higher agility, similar intelligence, higher will. Well, she beats it everything because the last one is from past year. Okay, so what we have here is double arrows for STR, 1 arrow for agility. It's pretty cool since you really don't need to go for the other style, at least for the arrows. You can just keep farming the best thing, that's the damage, just for this one. And there's 1 arrow for agility too. She can just take some damage in boss fights, not the best endurance for will combination that I have seen, but not bad. She can act as a debuffer, but her intelligence is not important because she can debuff with Acupuncture Plus. We'll talk more about that later. Starting with passive, the first one, Strength and Energy. Increases damage by 10% and starts with 2 more BP. This is essentially the same one we saw with Alkaiser. They are bringing similar setup for both. Then the second passive is called the Revitalize Tree. She has, on the end of turn, not on the start this time, a 25% chance to recover her HP. By a small effect, should be around 600, and also BP. See, Mei-Ling from the past banner could recover 5 BP with 25% chance too, but without the healing. Now they added the healing but decreased the BP recovery. But it does make sense to her design that we'll understand when we check the skills. Then we have for the 6 that increases damage by 30%. So in total she has 40% at all times, starts with 12. Has a chance to heal and get BP, but only 25% chance. If we take into consideration that people that attack and get 1 BP get usually 4 BP by 4 turns, she gets 3 BP in 4 turns. And this can hurt a little, but it is what it is. Okay, for the first skill we have is Aqua Lunge. This one is a piercing cold attack with E power 8 modifier. This is pretty similar to normal attack, but since you can rank up, it deals more. This attack comes from Souvenirs, and it's pretty nice because it's 0 BP, so you can use it all the time. Then the second attack is called Sprinkle. This one is a 6 BP AoE attack with piercing cold damage. 6 BP is pretty nice since she can use this 3 times in a row. The power is C and 16. Now that we talked about Souvenirs, I guess it's good to check his human version as well, because this is very similar to Hydrocyclone. Hydrocyclone has only 2 more modifier. Well, and it costs 8, so you can compare that Cordelia has a better skill if you think that she can use 3 times in a row, while this version can only use it twice. Then the last attack is called All in Trust. This is kinda her selling point, but not just that. It carries a charge mechanic, something that people don't like much in the game. Most of the characters that would receive charge were changed in global, but not all of them. Teacher 60G has a terrible charge mechanic that doesn't work well, but that is not the case with Cordelia. She has a very nice one that actually works. We open with All in Trust, 12 BP for a triple S attack with 71 modifier. Only pierce damage, but that's okay. It's one of the highest multipliers for triple S attacks. And then she starts counting. On the end of turn, it's 2. Next turn is 1. Turn 3, it's 0. By 0, she will have this attack available, only this one, called Triple Pierce. Well, Triple Pierce. This reminds me of someone. That is Gustav. Young Gustav has Triple Crush. Remember how strong this is? That is very strong. And he can use this on turn 1 on global. He could not use this on JP. So, she opens with a triple S attack. That's even powerful than V-Impact, if you compare about Gustav. And then she goes for Triple Crush. This attack would have been at least 13 BP if it was a normal attack. So, try to make the calculations. Let's say that a triple S attack with that much power is 12 BP, and then triple crush is 13, equals 25 BP. Of course, she cannot do a normal attack on turn 2, but that really compensates. You wouldn't have 25 BP in 3 turns ever, so that's how they balanced this version of Cordelia, making her a charge unit, but the damage you inflict here is insane. Well, 40% damage passives is not bad, so you will see Cordelia hitting very strong for raids, also for farming, but only when dealing with bosses. Can she work as a damage dealer for boss fights in challenges? She can work too. Well, there are other options like Minerva and other damage dealers that buff their main status. They will be better, well, in very, very long fights, but Cordelia can do well if she can just go for, well, maybe 6 turns or something. She just does a lot of damage. And one good thing is that, well, it's 12 VP, right? And then after 4 turns you can use it again. Not always. Sometimes you will be able to use that as soon as you awake. Let's say that you start all in trust. You have 25% chance to get 3 BP on turn 1, on turn 2, on turn 3, and then on turn 4 you had 3 chances of getting that 3 BP. If you get it, you can already use all in trust again. If you can't, you just use Aqua Lunge, wait 1 turn and use all in trust again. So yeah, it's a powerful cycle that does more than the normal characters would do by cycling between normal skills. So there is value in this. She was very useful in JP, as you've seen, some people gave me feedback on that. And she does face small competition in global because we have plenty of nukers, but in Pierce, big boom with Pierce is not so easy. We do have Slash with Rofus and Azami. We do have Blunt with Rogue. Well, she's not like them that do damage on turn 1, but if she can wait, she rocks. So this is her normal cycle. She can just go for single target, she can go for full AoE cycle, but there's plenty of inheritance, especially if you have this version of her, the teacher one. This one has multi-trust. She can use multi-trust twice in a row. This one is very powerful already. Many characters can use multi-trust. She's not the best one on this. We can use that with the Minerva or also with Nadart. They have good cycles, good damage, they self-buff. But it's an alternative if you skip it then. There's also Ontology on an attack that also recovers HP by very good value, like 700 or so. She can also self-heal sometimes, so it makes her a sustainable character with low damage output. In the future, Big Wheels will be amplifiable. So I had to open now SaGa to explain better. Big Wheels is this attack here. It becomes S power 42 modifier with 12 PP coast. That means that she can open and use this on turn 1. It's a very powerful attack that can be used for farming. Then for inheritance, there is also in the future an amplify over her Christmas version nuke that becomes 8 PP for triple S. That's pretty nice. She can use it on turn 1 and then on turn 3 or even turn 2 if she triggers her passive. Or also there is this other amplify coming from her platinum style that is just the same power as her third skill nuke, but this time adding cold as well, but without the chase mechanic. If you are on a farming scenario with only one wave, it works nice. And then the last inheritance comes from her Valentine version, and that is Acupuncture that can be amplified into Acupuncture Plus, a 10 VP attack that guarantees to debuff STR of an enemy by 30%. If the boss does not have the 5 weakness, this is amazing to use. So she has plenty of different inheritance for people that have been summoning for her, but even those that haven't. This Valentine style is limited, but not from a banner, actually from an event. So it may return, if you didn't get her recently, it may return in the future and you just get a little extra value. So with that said, there are plenty of different inheritances for Cordelia, and she has AoE rotations or single target rotations, works well both in boss and farming scenarios. There is also a future version of Cordelia in JP that's actually platinum and brings something very interesting, and that is cold damage again. As you see here, Crystal Strikes triple S with 10 BP, and so you can even forget about some of the other inheritances if you want and wait. And there is also opener AoE that decreases guard down. Guard down means that you do more damage. It's the inverse of morale up. And since it's platinum, you always have your Cordelia trained and you just get more diversity for the future. She will receive a high WS grade. She's still not a triple S one because of the charge mechanic not working all the time. But if you have been skipping some pierce attackers, she will serve you well. The next character is Will, and we have 5 different versions of Will. I know that you have seen this one so many times. Tycoon in his youth just brings nightmare when we are pulling for premium units. But there was also this A style, limited. There was also this S style, limited, but not from banner, it was from an event. The Christmas style as well, SS limited. So this is actually the 4th limited version of Will, but the 2nd double S. It's hard to compare because this version is kind of old now, but you can see that it loses only on endurance, has higher status on everything else. Yes, it even has 105% intelligence. Yeah, Will is a hybrid unit. He uses club and also has heat as an element. His STR is 99% and his intelligence 105%, so you see that he's a little more inclined for magical attacks than anything else. His endurance and we are on the average, nothing to worry about, but nothing so good. Because he's hybrid, he needs a lot of stuff. He needs STR for physical damage and dexterity for accuracy. He needs agility and intelligence for accuracy of magical attacks and intelligence for damage. They tried to make something out of here, decreasing the love and charisma to make it work, and I think it works. For the first passive, we have Raging Spirit, STR, and Intelligence. This is very similar to what we saw in Mei-Ling review, and it's also the same passive that another character has, that is Zosma. Zosma is another hybrid unit, and as you see here, it's the same passive. Well, this one increases STR and intelligence by 20% after he lands an attack, so it's not available when he's doing the first hit, but it works after turn 1. Then we have Conceal. The second passive was changed in global. He lost 30% increase in damage. Yeah, we're gonna miss that, but Will was also a complicated character. People didn't look too much into him because of his competition that is also here on this banner, that is Rick. So they tried to make him a little more focused for boss fights, and Conceal helps with that. It gives you 50% chance to evade all types of attacks when everyone is alive. We got characters like that before, and also Mei-Ling from the other banner has the same thing. So nice. Not totally reliable, but if you are using him on a boss fight, it can save you from doom. And the last one is High Battle Tension, increasing damage by 20% and giving him access to 1 more BP on start of battle. So yeah, Will has the lowest value on passive for this banner. He's now on the same level as Zeke, but Zeke can also bring sustain. He is a more defensive unit, while Will is trying to decide if he's focused on damage or not. So the good thing is that Raging Spirit is very good for hybrid units that uses physical and magical, and that helps him with how they designed him for global. The first skill is called Fireball Plus. This one is an AoE attack with deep power, 12 modifier and hit damage. This one can be used forever. It comes already amplified and it's actually very nice. Then the second one is called Burning Beat. This one costs 5 EP for 8 power. Remember, I said that 8 power with 5 EP is something that we are getting now. It was not so easy to find. Double damage, so blunt and heat. And in global, there's a new effect. He can debuff dexterity. This is a chance to debuff dexterity, so he needs intelligence. It's already 105%, pretty high, and he keeps getting more intelligence, so that means that if he does not hit right on start, he will eventually just hit the enemies. One problem: most of our recent dexterity debuffers attack with indirect attacks. We already had some people, like we had Vassalt that uses a spell that's indirect. Then we got Mei-Ling that actually uses a direct attack, but she was one of the few ones. And then there is Ginny that debuffs with indirect. There is also the How, debuffs with indirect. Then there is Global Axiom Dean, debuffs with indirect. And then there is Sarah that also debuffs with indirect. Although Sarah cost is much higher, it's 8 BP, she debuffs by 20%. But I'm not here just to criticize, but when you are trying to debuff dexterity, it's from a boss that uses physical attacks. Some of them will have counters, so when this happens, he will not be so good. He will just get countered. Burning Beat at least is very powerful and will do much more damage than any of the other characters I said for long runs, because he keeps buffing his STR to increase damage and intelligence to increase the chance of debuffing. So for quick fights, makes sense, but 5 BP is a little prohibitive for long runs, because he would just have turns where we will have to use a normal attack instead, because he would not have BP available. Then we have the third skill called SaGa Ninja Oreshino Fire. This one is an opener attack for AoE that costs 11 VP. It's only heat. This one is a spell like Fireball, and it will also have a chance to debuff dexterity. Again, his intelligence is pretty high, but opening from the start, a power with 11 BB cost is nice. It's not bad. You just have to figure where you want to use him. If you're using for farm, you can place him easily on an intelligence position. In boss fights, sometimes use formations that don't increase so much of the offensiveness, but more about the defensiveness of a character, so it doesn't matter if he's using physical or if he is using magical. So yeah, for farming, you mostly be using him on intelligence position. So what value do we get here? 11 VP for AoE debuff, it's too much. And then he cannot keep doing that. But how many dexterity buffers can debuff AoE targets? Well, we have Yundin. She can do it as well, but she has a better cycle. Global X Yundin has this version here, where she sometimes will just skip one turn. See, she opens with 9. The damage is lower, of course, but then she just uses that. She gets 4 BP by attacking on total, and then she skips one turn, can use Ice Sky Lantern again, and it's medium effect, so it buffs 20, just like Sarah. So we can even try to go for AoE by use of this. But the best one is, of course, Bune. Bune has access to the best AoE debuff we have, and that is Windbloom. Windbloom, it's only 3 VP, just like Aerodyne. So if you have this Bune, you hardly ever think about bringing Will into a fight, unless you need both. He is your secondary dexterity debuffer almost all the time, either for AoE or either for a single target. So this decreases the value of this guy a little, because he just doesn't have as much damage as before. He also decreases the value of being a main damage dealer. What I try to do is make him diverse. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. You tell me. I think that it's not so bad, since he self-stacks his status. This is be something very important moving forward, because weapons you get better, making the damage passage from a character not as important as before. But besides that, he can get access to some stuff, but they are not perfect for him. Let's say he gets access to Gongringer that can be amplified to Gongringer Plus. But he cannot use Gongringer 2 times in a 3-turn cycle. That will require 18 VP. He does only have 17. So you can open, but then you have to just use Burning Beat after that. At least he can just use 9, and then he still has 5 on turn 2. That is, for 2 waves, he goes for a good blunt damage. If you also have his Christmas style, there is this Present Bomber attack. That is a role that will work here and there, but I don't know if that is good enough. So even if you ignore the dexterity debuff that was added in Global, he has a perfect AoE cycle. He opens with a strong attack and then keeps using a weak one. He can also have another cycle for single target. He can inherit Gongringer that can be inherited from his A or S limited styles. At least this one was free, most people will have it. And then he opens with his attack and has Burning Beat on turn 2. So for 2 turns or 2 wave setups, he also works for single target. But besides that, his main role is to go for full AoE damage. Some people will say that Present Bomber is strong. Yeah, but he cannot use that on turn 1. And this is blunt and heat for double S power and roll. It will be more important in the future, but not a main gameplay. So what do I think about what they did to Will? I believe that what they did will make him more relevant for boss fights. less relevant for farming, but overall may make him survive more against the meta, because buffing SDR and intelligence is more important than just having more passives. So having this new chance to evade means that he can survive and take some hits from hard-hitting boss and try to debuff then. He's a good dexterity debuffer. If he's your second one in command, the damage will be good and he'll work well, but don't think that he can be your main dexterity buffer in most cases. That means Will will receive a low double S tier grade, and it's easier to skip Will than other characters from this banner if you summon it for Building and have global axioms in and are also okay with your hit damage. Will is totally skippable for you. Sadly, that is the truth. And before we leave, there is a future style of Will, and it's already on JP, and this one is a more physical attacker, and he has an attack that heals, not by much. The second skill is interesting for the current version because it buffs STR twice, so you can use this as a good attack, but it's also something that we'll see competition in the future. And there is also this other attack that's pretty powerful. This time is blunt and hit and loses 1 LP because it's only 8. So yeah, you can use it twice in the 3-turn cycle, and it's just as much close to a power as it gets. A power starts it with the 8. And the last character is Ginny. We have 6 different versions of Ginny in the game. Well, the first S1 is Platinum, then we got Ginny Knights as a Platinum 1, and there is Give Me Strength Father, Platinum, but then the first limited was not code at all. This was from the release of the game. Then we got this Therapeutic Anima, that's an intelligence debuffer, and now we have Buying Souvenirs is fun with a mix of everything she has. She's a debuffer with some damage too. Well, she beats almost all status in all the past styles, like 101% STR is nice. She only loses on endurance to the Give Me Strength Father style. Well, much higher dexterity is nice because she needs to land attacks to debuff. 80% agility beats all styles as well, nice because she needs to go first. Her intelligence is 105%, it's the highest intelligence for a character that's not a mage in a game, and that's amazing. She has even higher intelligence than Zosma, for example, but Zosma keeps buffing. 105 is a big start and she will hardly fail. Then there is 64% Will. Love and Crazy are pretty bad because they well increased her intelligence. Now, this girl has double arrows for intelligence, the best status, and she comes with that. 1 arrow for SDR and bonuses for those 2. You can find other things in her past styles and you don't need the limited ones. Then the first passive is called Healing Breath 3. On the start of a turn, she has a 37% chance to heal, and she will heal by around 600. That's good because she's a debuffer and she may get hit sometimes. Then the second one is called Enervate 4, Agility. When she attacks, she has a 25% chance to debuff agility from targets. The value is 20%. Then we have Fired Up 6 is the only damage passive, increasing damage by 30%. So 30% increase in damage, 37% chance to heal, and 25% chance to debuff agility. Pretty straightforward for a character. Recently we got so many bloated stuff, but we like bloated stuff, right? So skill number 1 is Happy Souvenir. This one is a 0 BP auxiliary skill. It's not something that does damage, it just recovers 4 BP and that's it. It's even better than some skills that we got in the past, like we have Urpina. She has a skill that comes from this Platinum version that's called Wall Wielding Stance, something that Gustav also has. And it recovers 3 BP. In her case, it recovers 4. So it's an upgrade, and as you can see, it's also a power creep. Then she has 2 skills. They have the same damage. Double S power, 48 modifier. They have different names, of course. Lapping Fun's Mesh has a chance to debuff STR by large effect. That is 30%. It's the highest value that we can debuff on a single attack. And there is also Gobi School Splitter that debuffs 30% of his intelligence as well. So you can choose what do you want your Ginny to do. You want her to debuff STR, you use the second skill. You want her to debuff intelligence, use the third one. Same damage, same power, nothing different. You can also set her for auto on auto, she will just skip half souvenir and will use a normal attack. So if you can debuff in 3 turns and that is enough, she will go debuff 30%, skips 1 turn, debuffs 30% again. Some bosses will just use the fire weakness because you are trying to debuff too much. But let's say that you want to do a raid and you want to do an auto to get high score. She debuffs the boss, and then the second debuff works pretty fine. But some of these raid bosses just use the fire weaknesses too, right? I don't know how many times you will use this fully on auto, but she's a boss specialist most of the time. She would just go debuff 1 status. She can be your main, she can also be your complement, but mostly for bosses that don't have the fire weaknesses. Many of them will make you stop debuffing both 30%. On 35 they already triggered the fire weaknesses. So like Creator in Work Tower, Creator don't like more than 30% debuff, so you can only use it once, and then after that you have to wait for it to disappear completely. That is 4 turns, so that you can reapply. So what is she doing while she is waiting? That is one problem too. But the power is good. If you can debuff, she's one of the best debuffers in the game because she just cycles between 1 attack, charge, 1 attack, charge. You start with 8 and then in 1 turn you get 3, but you got +4 by happy souvenir, so you eventually only lost 1 BP by using one of the attacks. She can keep going. As you can see, she only has these 2 attacks, no AoE. The cycle is simple, but what can you get from Inheritance? If you have her limited style, Autumn Breeze is a 2 BP attack that can debuff intelligence. You can just stick to this one. It's pretty cheap. So you just open with EU Gobi School Splitter, keep using Autumn Breeze till you get enough to go back to this. So you have an intelligence debuff by active skill and a chance to debuff agility by passive. It will not be your main agility buffer, but will contribute to another agility buffer in your party. But the SDR version is not so good. Bone Crusher can be amplified, but 6 BP, I guess you are better using one with 8 because that one decreases 30% instead of just 15%. That's the same value as Autumn Breeze, but Autumn Breeze at least has low cost. Another inheritance option is one that comes from her S style, that is Petra Delta. You can amplify it to Petra Delta Plus, and this one has a low chance to inflict Petrify. Remember, she does have very high intelligence. She can compete with Taria, because look, Taria has Arita Petra, that is only D power instead of B. She does have lower intelligence, but the only thing that makes Taria the best Petrify chance in the game is that she starts the round buffing her intelligence, and then she also has a 25% chance to buff again. This will still have a little higher chance than Ginny, but Ginny does much more damage and has better status. She beats the other 2 characters that are Thomas. The last version of Thomas only has 93% intelligence, or Narcisse. Narcisse has 90%. So yeah, you can see that Ginny is actually a good character when you think about the Petrify chance, the debuff options, and in Tower she will fill the role for people that don't have Taria just easily, while adding different rotations and scenarios for debuff. Sometimes you find bosses that don't like Ginny debuff because they are too strong, but some bosses will still be able to be debuffed without you seeing the fire weakness. I just don't know how many of them, so take that into consideration. Because of that, I will be giving Ginny also double S grade, but a lower one. It's a little easier to skip Ginny too, because there are many debuffers and can work as replacement to this version of Ginny, although she is a very good and interesting one. So the last one is Rick. This one is pretty straightforward. He's a sword user with slash and hit damage, meaning look like a hybrid unit, but he is actually not. Well, he beats his past styles in everything, because this one is platinum, this other one is platinum, and the third one here was a welfare and returned recently with Conquest. Well, let's click here. We have double arrows for STR and 1 arrow for agility. That's already pretty cool. 115% is actually the highest value in the game. We can even go here and filter by STR, and you will see that Rick beats everyone. Yeah, even Gustav and Party. So, very nice status for a character that is a farmer. Yes, he's a farmer. His resistance is not so bad, so he can even be used on boss fights if you really want to, but he may not be the best options. 81% is good. For a farmer, could have been better, but still. Now, he starts with Power Charge 3, that allows him to go for 13 BP on start. The second passive Vital STR is just the same one as you can find on Gustav. Young Gustav has this one as well. And it's actually very nice because it buffs everyone's STR by 10%. And you can use them together on Amazon Raid X and you see that the damage increases a lot. And then he has Fired Up 6 that increases his damage output by 30% at all times. Yeah, this guy only has one damage passive. But status buff will matter much more in the long run, and he buffs the squad, so meaning that everyone does more damage and will help more when farming. So the first skill is Fire Flash. Well, Fire Flash, yeah, this reminds me of Urpina. It's a slash and hit attack with deep power and 10 modifier and AoE. So 3 BP is pretty cheap for an AoE with that power. We can go here and compare, for example, to Urpina and Emperor's attack. That is actually 4 for the same cost. So this is power creep here. And he's competing against these both characters I just mentioned, for slash at least. And the second attack is called Heaven on Earth Plus. That means that everyone that has Heaven on Earth will also be able to amplify. This attack is actually not bad because it deals as power 39 with 6 BP. Remember when I talked about Zeke in the past review? This is something that we need to see just to compare power creep. Zeke needs to spend 1 LP to do double S 48. We can do 6 BP 39. We are getting there without spending LP, but Zeke is a gunner. He takes more advantage of the damage calculation, but still Rick with Heaven on Earth Plus, it's cool enough. It's just that it only matters if you want to use Heaven on Earth 3 times in a row because of Power Charge 3, but then maybe you have other characters that do more damage, like, I don't know, Urpina with her cross break, steel breaks easily, or if you want to go with Karma with Young Boy, or some other options like UDX Katarina, double hit as well. Then the third one is called Flame Frenzy. This one costs 13 BP for an AoE slash and heat attack. Back to slash and heat. As power 39 modifier, and they changed that in global for fast. That is insane. Guys, we got the modifier from Urpina AoE attack that she uses on turn 1. This one costs 12, so 1 less, but it's 32. It was higher than some other attacks we saw, like Emperor's attack. Emperor has Imperial Sword that is actually 28 modifier. So we got it better with Urpina, but now we're getting even better with this version of Rick. But he does face his competition with someone. That is Alosis. Alosis has the same power, slash and hit as well. And he even gets bigger damage on turn 1 because he gets this attack boost stance alongside a bigger STR buff, but it's only to himself. They can still work together if you want that much power. But there's a problem with Alosis' cycle. He cannot use a cheap AoE attack after using his big opener. He is locked. That does not happen with Rick. Rick can do it normally. He opens with Flame Frenzy, and if he needs to attack on turn 2 or wave 2 and beyond, he has Fire Flash and he will always be able to use that. Not even Urpina can do it past turn 3 because she will not have VP available, but Rick does, so this is a little of a power creep. He beats her AoE cycle, but if you do have Cross Break, what is Cross Break? We need to see that again. It's one of the best attacks in this game. So Cross Break is an 8 BP attack that deals very close to 4S power with only 8 BP cost. It's amazing, use it in many farming scenarios. Rick cannot compete with that. It's the only thing that he cannot compete. And also, he does not have any counter mechanic like UDX Urpina has. So back to Flame Frenzy, this is now the strongest turn 1 fast attack in the game. Yeah, and he works well with some other people like the last version of Polka. Actually, Polka is stronger with another style, but the style that gives the thing is this one. So Yeah, Soul Burn is double S power even and can be used by this older version for more damage. So if you have two waves, they will work well together. Poker is intelligence, Rich is STR, so they can be used on Rainbow Rangers just fine. Some other ones that can be used together can be Bertrand or even Saruin, just fine as well. But let's return to Rich. Rich has another secret on his sleeve, and that is an Amplify attack. This comes from his welfare style that many people will have, and it is Rising Nova Plus. This one is a single target attack. We saw it recently with two styles. First of all, it was with Vampire Lady. With her release, she just launched this attack. This one breaks all buffs from the enemies, and you know what's good? It does not rely on intelligence, so if the attack hits, it will remove all enemy buffs. It's very valuable in boss fights now, since we just got this special Ludwig fight where he just keeps buffing himself and he can remove your buffs. So this is important when you see situations like this. So if you don't have this version of Vampire Lady, or you didn't get that version of Asilus that has this attack as well, it comes from that Halloween style or from this other White Day style. So if you don't have all these options, Rick will serve you well. Although he's not made for bossing, it can work, especially if you think that he can use this attack much faster than any of the other characters, unless you compare to a chance of Asilus triggering her passive. Rick starts with 13 BP, and then this attack is exactly only 9 when you amplify. So he can use that again on turn 3. So he can remove the buffs from boss on start and then on turn 3. Now the second skill, Mirage Blade, is also very nice. You can amplify that to Mirage Blade Plus, B power 22 modifier, and this is Rick trying to steal the thunder of Urpina once again. I used this Mirage Blade Plus twice in a row with Urpina many times, especially comboing that with Saruin. Those two characters together were enough to finish some waves. So now Rich has even better potential since he has bigger status and does not rely on staying on full HP. If the enemy attacks him, he does not lose his damage potential. So, oh yeah, Rick is a very good character. He does hit damage just like Will does, but his damage is better, he's more reliable, his cycle is better, and he's also capable of doing single target if you want. The damage coming from Rising Nova is okay with him. He does not do much damage in longer fights since he does not self-buff, but if you really need to remove buffs from a boss, he works just fine. Rick is a character that's a cheap investment. Right now you summon for him, you get inheritances from his welfare, and you know what's better? In JP, his next style is free. This one here acts similar to Bertrand, where he kills targets and recovers BP so that he can keep using powerful attacks. So, he cannot use the skill number 3 again, but he can use stuff like Mirage Blade Plus, for example, and that will work, or some of his own attacks. So, this one is hybrid, unlike the current one at least. But you can see that Rick has a future. If you didn't get Alosis, if you didn't get Urpina, Rick is a very good resource for farming. Powerful, reliable, with good cycles. Competes and beats Urpina on AoE, but doesn't on single target. Although Rising Nova is nice, it's still something that we need to see if it will matter in most boss fights, but a nice resource you have. Rick will receive a very high double S or even leaning a little to triple S grade. Yeah, I know it's farming, you can skip if you don't want Rick, no worries, farming characters can be easily replaced, but even then, he offers a lot. So let's return to the banner image, and is this banner worth summoning for? In my opinion, yes. We have 4 styles here, so that means that you have 4% chances of an SS and 1% of an off banner. And all characters are good at least. I mean that Cordelia is a big nuker, Rich is a very nice farmer, Ginny, an alternative debuffer that has her own unique setup, and Will is a character that will probably work, but is not a best on what he does. So, it still has a lot of value for people that have been skipping banners. I want to get Rick and Cordelia at least. Ginny and Will are bonus. I'll stop if I get Rich and Cordelia and move on. We also don't know what was gonna happen in the second year anniversary. There's more weeks coming up. We will be getting a conquest, so there's plenty of gems. But think well if you want these characters, decide between the two banners. I cannot say which banner is better. Here I want more 3 units. In the other one I want Zeke and Alkaiser. I can live without Emilia or without Mei-Ling, but that's because I have other characters I can cover. So in my opinion the value is pretty similar. Decide based on what you're lacking after watching the reviews. So in the end this banner will also receive high silver grade. Still not good. I have to say that this is not something skippable. Let's be honest here. There will be alternatives in the future, characters that will do something similar, but it does have its value. But that's my opinion. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't. If you want to support the channel, there are links in the description of the video. I hope to see you soon in the next one. Bye.